The whole gig economy was sold to us on this promise of flexibility, right? But that promise, well, it's starting to crack. And as it does, it's showing us some really deep flaws in how we even measure our labor market. So let's dig into what the official numbers just aren't telling us.
So, if you just look at the surface, everything seems great. The official U.S. unemployment rate is hovering around a record low. I mean, by that number alone, you'd think the job market has never been stronger.
But here's the thing. That one number, it's kind of a mirage. It's hiding this massive seismic shift in what it even means to be employed today.
And that brings us to the first huge problem in the data, what we can call the hidden workforce. We're talking about millions of people who do have jobs, but they just don't show up in the stats the way they used to.
Think about it. When someone loses a traditional 9-to-5, what's the easiest thing to do? It's way faster to just sign up for an app like Uber or DoorDash than it is to go through the whole process of filing for unemployment. And that simple fact completely skews the data.
And the numbers here, wow, they really tell the story. Okay, so over the last 5 years, the number of officially unemployed people went down by 3 million. Guess what? In that exact same time frame, the number of active Uber drivers went up by 3 million. See? This isn't really job creation, it's more like a direct replacement.
This really gets to the heart of the problem, right? There's this old saying, when a metric becomes a goal, it's no longer a useful measure. And that's exactly what's happening. The platforms, the media, politicians, they all have a reason to point to that nice low unemployment number. It makes it almost impossible to see what's really going on for the actual people caught in the middle of this shift.
Okay, so let's peel back another layer here and look at the platforms themselves, because their whole game has changed.
See, every one of these platforms is this constant balancing act. You've got the customer who, of course, wants low prices. You've got the restaurant or the provider, and they want a fair split. And then you have the driver or the worker who just wants to make decent pay. And right in the middle, you have the platform trying to take the biggest cut it can from everyone.
Back in the early days, their strategy was all about blitz scaling. Basically, just using tons of venture capital money to grow as fast as possible, no matter the cost. They were subsidizing everything, super cheap rides for us, the customers, and really high pay for the drivers. But well, that era is long gone. Now the goal isn't growth anymore, it's profit. And that means squeezing everyone involved.
And to make things even worse, look at the economy right now. With interest rates so high, it's pretty much impossible for a new competitor, maybe a more worker-friendly one, to even get started. The big players are totally locked in and they hold all the cards.
So what's the end result of all this? Well, it's the inevitable squeeze on the worker. The entire system is now tilted, and it's fundamentally imbalanced against them.
Just look at this chart. It's staggering. Customer revenue went up by 35% in just 2 years. That's pretty good. But look at the other side. The number of active workers absolutely exploded by 80%. The supply of people wanting to do the work is growing more than twice as fast as the actual demand for that work.
And here's the critical point. When you have that much of an oversupply of labor, the drivers become the easiest, most replaceable part of the whole equation. This gives the platforms just immense power to cut driver pay, because hey, there's always someone else ready to take their place. And this is what that looks like in the real world. This is just one example, sure, but it's a pretty damning one. A customer pays $64 for a ride in LA, and the driver gets $12.43. That's it.
And look, this isn't some far-off hypothetical future we're talking about. If you want to see where this is all going, you just have to look at a place where this future has already arrived.
Let's talk about China. The gig economy there is on a completely different level. We're talking about an estimated 200 million gig workers. That's a workforce bigger than the entire population of most countries on Earth.
And just to put that into perspective, that's something like 40% of the country's entire urban workforce. A huge, huge chunk of the population is now depending on these platforms to make a living. So what happens when a market gets that oversaturated? Well, the reality for the workers on the ground is pretty grim. With that much competition, drivers are saying they have to spend 10 hours a day online just to make what they used to earn in 3. And as if that's not enough, there's one last piece to this puzzle: automation. This relentless push to automate the entire workforce right out of a job. You know what I'm talking about. Robo-taxis, delivery drones, AI just doing the services. As this tech keeps moving forward, you start to see two possible endgame scenarios. And honestly, they're both pretty bleak for the people who are most vulnerable here. Scenario 1, the AI bubble collapses. That could set off a massive economic downturn, and demand for these kinds of services just dries up.
Scenario 2, the AI bubble succeeds. In that case, the technology just replaces the human workers entirely. So for the millions and millions of people who rely on this system, both paths kind of look like a dead end. And that leaves us with one last, pretty tough question to think about. Which one of these outcomes is the lesser failure?